Did you get the video I sent you yesterday? I don't know. I sent it through your email.
Oh. I don't think so. What?
I don't know, because I was going through my old YouTube channel and
I don't know, like, you never have time.
well, listen,
You gotta mow your lawn, you gotta clean out your garage.
Listen, man, I was
going through my whole YouTube channel. Clearly, you have more time.
Listen, man, I was at my job. So I found an old YouTube video of you and I working out at Station 18. You might ask, why, in God's name, are you recording? And mind you, it was from 2015. Okay. 9 years ago. And so you might ask yourself, why were you guys recording yourselves working out? It was a CrossFit Open workout, 15 point something. And I would imagine I was in the Open and you were just working out with me as a competition. Wall balls and single unders, buddy. That's what we did for a long. But it was just funny. So anyway, I sent it to you. And I thought, when we look back on in all the workouts we did at 19 or 17 or whatever, like it was just fun to think in 17 too. We talked the other day about, I was just thinking about it last night, so we would get on websites, right? Neither one of us really knew what we were doing, but a couple of them come to mind. CrossFit Endurance.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that website?
Yeah, it still exists. It's just like you have to pay a fee to get access.
Of course, because ain't nothing free anymore. And so I don't remember why we did those workouts, but they were basically like, weren't they just like a run and a swim and then like a CrossFit workout?
You could pick either one. So it's kind of like built around a triathlon format. And if you were a marathon runner, you could just do the run workouts. If you were a cyclist, you could do the cycling workouts. And if you were a swimmer, or you could do like a combination. Like one cycling, one swimming, endurance workout. But it's all like that philosophy around like anaerobic training or aerobic endurance is like pretty well understood now.
Yeah.
And there's many different like platforms that basically will offer the same guide. But anyway.
What's the other one? SEAL Fit. Remember SEAL Fit workout? And what were those, you think? Like, were those like basically like an hour-long CrossFit workout?
Yeah. They were like an ER visit waiting.
Yeah, rhabdo, basically. Run a 5K, do Murph, and then run another 5K.
And that would be like an easy.
That'd be like that's the recovery day. We did that shit.
225 pound shoulder to overhead.
Yeah.
Ground overhead. Run a mile per time. And then do like 100 of them, and then run 2 miles per time.
Yes. Yeah, and then make sure you go home and recover. Mobility, box breathing. We just finished up. Yeah.
What was that? Asian guy.
What was his name? Can you say that?
Asian.
I think so.
I mean, he's from Asia. I
don't know who you're talking about.
They were yoga DVDs. Remember the old school yoga DVDs?
Shit, yes, I do. Yeah. I've got them. He was a little Asian fella. You're exactly correct. What was that guy's name? We did Asian yoga. I don't know that that's.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna find it. Hopefully, I find it. Maybe I tossed them. Because obviously my yoga career is advanced. It went from little Asian guy to P90X to what other free app, and now I can't do yoga at all because of my hip labor.
The P90X yoga was like the field of yoga.
It was terrible. It was 45 minutes of strength yoga, and then the guy goes, what was that guy's name? I know, but the first 45 minutes were basically supporting your body weight. And then after 45 minutes, he goes, okay, guys, now we're going to do balance poses. And your muscles were so like, you couldn't balance after that.
I've never sweated so much in my life, not moved like 3 foot.
Yes. Like, and it's what
you almost have to like bruise.
And that's actually what got me hooked on yoga was P90X. I was like, man, this is great. But the first 45 minutes were miserable. You basically just held isometric poses until you couldn't. And then at the end, he was like, okay, guys, we're going to calm down and do some balance. Fall all over. We used to do those in the sleep rooms at Iowa Lutheran. We just finished a workout that probably back in the day that we would have looked at and said, man, this is going to suck. And then today it was just kind of, we did a 2-mile burden carry with sandbags,
which is
up a hill.
Way people.
Yes.
2-mile walk, while carrying
or 85-pound, depending on which one you had. I didn't really weigh it. I just assumed. Not that nobody's trying. No, there's no competition happening. But anyway, it was a good walk and built up a good sweat. I just kind of really a testament to the last 16 years of working out, trying different shit, doing different things.
Some years have been better than others. For me, anyway.
Yeah, because we did some 5Ks like we did. I remember one year, there's a picture floating around somewhere, you and I in wetsuits. I don't understand why we were doing that. Yeah, he was in the picture too.
We were at station 15. I was like, I think I'm going to try and do a triathlon. Yeah. I still haven't, in case you were wondering.
I don't even know how long ago that was.
I was going to try and do the Des Moines half Ironman 2 years ago. Obviously, that fell through. Not because of any circumstances in my control, but
not that you weren't training for it.
Yeah. And then actually, there's a triathlon this summer, end of August at Lake Icaria, the sprint. So I'm going to try and do that.
For real? Oh, I didn't know that was even in the works.
I'm already registered.
What just finished a month ago? Was that the sprint try that you were training for 2 years ago? Yeah, Hannah did it.
She did Des Moines.
Is that the Des Moines half Ironman or?
Yeah, that's not a sprint triathlon. That's a half.
Oh, so that's
So that's like a.
Yeah, I get you. 12-mile run or whatever, and
if you're like
mile swim.
Pretty competitive. I think you would like 6-hour range to finish. Most people probably take closer to 12.
Jesus, half a day.
Yeah.
To do a half Ironman. Jesus.
Yeah, because I think I might be off on my distances, but I'm pretty sure the bike ride is like 63 or 64 miles or something like that, and it's a 1-mile swim, I think, or just in kilometers, so round, and then it's a half marathon. It's the run.
Jesus, maybe we need to have Hannah Montana on the show and figure out how she trained for that as a mom and a wife and a first responder.
The guy that I'm going to do this sprint triathlon with, he did the full Des Moines Ironman and three.
Really?
Yeah.
So he's got some experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and he had like a really decent time too. Like not that huge deal, but like the Madisonian did like a news story on it.
No, I remember the Madisonian.
Came to his house.
Listen, I don't know if you can go back in the archives and you can find a news story about yours truly in the Madisonian.
Yeah, about one.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Picture and everything, got the news clippings. Pretty big deal. Probably find it on microfiche.
I have to go to the library. One of those like projector things where you like put the slides over them.
Absolutely. Why were we going to the Healthy Living Center and swimming every now and then? Were you training for something for that, or were we just trying to do something different?
You were trying not to drown.
Listen,
if I remember right.
We all have our skill set, okay? And apparently swimming is just not one. Yeah. Which is fine. There was a lot of thrashing. I always felt like worked when I got
good swim. Yeah. Not by swim.
You know what's interesting about that though is that we basically this whole ruck or burden carry we had a whole podcast episode about self-improvement and self-awareness and natural curiosity to getting better at things. It forced me to look at why I'm a bad swimmer. And it gave me tips on how to be better at swimming. Now, the application of those tips and tricks may have not been translated well. But think about that for a second and how you and I and a lot of other people too in the history of our lives and careers have went to, I wonder if I could do a half Ironman. And then what do I have to do to complete a half Ironman? What kind of training do I have to, in that natural curiosity that led to, shit, I'm going to have, triathlon.
Yeah.
And how much of that you've applied in anything that you've done.
Well, I would say that it's too bad that we didn't record the conversation that we just had when we were walking around the trail.
Well, the good
There were
news
parts
is,
of it that probably don't record it, but
the good news is we can do this in volumes. This doesn't have to be, the holy grail or Bible of.
But what I'll say about like the analogy of swimming, like, wow, I wonder if I can swim a mile. I wonder if I can do that. You can, like, I guarantee you can train yourself to swim a mile, 100%. The thing that you at some point would have to decide is, especially if you're doing triathlon or just life in general, but the thing you would have to decide is like, at some point you're going to get to like this threshold in your ability to swim, right? And then in order to improve on that, the amount of time that you're going to have to spend to get any better than you are at that threshold becomes like pretty drastic.
Cost benefit analysis.
Yes. And so I think that analogy applies to like somewhat like continue our conversation that we were having just a little bit ago. Like that analogy applies like across the board with anything that you're doing in life. Like you can dedicate as much time as you have for a thing, and whatever you decided is like an okay allotment of time for that thing. And then once you get so good, to get any better, the amount of time that you're going to have to devote to it is just going to it's going to exceed your limits.
Right.
And you decide like, do I want to be a better swimmer, or like, am I a good enough swimmer? And I just think that like life is kind of like a series of competition between all of these things that are competing for your attention, right? And you just have to decide like, how much time do I have to be a better swimmer? I don't. I'm as good as I'm going to get. And for me to get any faster, because that's what it comes down to, is speed, right? Like how long does it take you to swim 1,000 meters? Do it in like sub 30 minutes or sub 20 minutes. And so, for me to knock like 5 minutes off of my 1 mile time, I would probably have to do so much swimming in the next like two years. Like for me to get 5 minutes faster swimming a mile would take a long time, which is going to take away from like other parts of my life, right?
And I did the same thing with even something as dumb as CrossFit. Like I was always trying to get better at. You remember I couldn't jump rope forwards like at all. Not a bit. Like it was a terrible test that but God damn it, I won. And now I can do double unders like a champ, right? But the point of that is that was a single skill set versus an overall modality. So like for me to get better at CrossFit, it always annoyed me that I couldn't do X, Y, and Z together, but I could do X by itself, Y by itself, and Z by itself, but I couldn't put the things together. But the amount of time I would have had to spend to try to get to that point exceeded the need to do it. Yeah. And so I got to the point where, but anytime you fall short of that, me personally, is my personality, was like, I always felt like I was moving the goalpost to meet my output. Meaning my goal was to do, let's say Amanda. Amanda is 975, I think, of a certain snatch weight and ring muscle ups. Well, I can do snatches and I can do ring muscle ups, but I can't put that whole workout together. Mm-hmm. And so I would spend an exponential amount of time trying to and never getting that. But then at one day I just got to the point where I was like, listen, this exceeds my capability. And so I'm going to lower my standard because I can't meet my goal.
Does it exceed your capability though, or does it exceed your capability to dedicate time to get better at it?
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. I guess maybe we run into things in life, and there's obviously, uh, oh, obviously, if anybody's interested in where we're at right now, we're at the city park, and so we're going to have a lot of background chatter because we just finished the ruck up to Clark's Tower and back, which is pretty cool. So I don't know. I think there's things that come up in life that maybe interrupt that progress that we have to dedicate more time to, and then less time to that. But it always, for me personally, always felt like I gave up. You know what I mean?
I mean, you can look at it. Yeah, you like that's no offense. But
Yeah, none
like
taken.
that's kind of like a little bit of a pessimist view on the subject, I think, because you could say that, or you could say like you could say, I just don't have enough time. Like it's not important enough to me to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And I think I could if I could spend the time. And we're not talking about like I think I could, win the gold medal in men's gymnastics. It's like that's like not what we're talking about,
No,
right?
not at
Like we're
all.
just talking about
That's
like,
unrealistic.
right, having realistic expectations about what we're physically and mentally capable of doing. And I think if you have realistic expectations, then um, also like reasonable like goals around time management that um, sometimes you just run out of time.
Yeah.
Like there's not enough hours in the day because otherwise you end up with and this bothers people when I say this, but like otherwise you end up with guys like David Goggins. Like that guy does not give up. And he's like a rare combination of like just God given physical talent and like this
Emotional damage.
this mentality that like I can do what I want, you know? And he's lucky because he has both of them, or I guess depending on how you look at it, lucky might not be the right
I
word.
would question.
You end up with a guy like David Goggins who is he's missing in a lot of other areas of his life. And like if you read his book, that's not talked about. It's like kind of glossed over. But my understanding of it is that like there are big areas that are really important to me that he's not taking care of in his life because he's out like busy breaking pull-up records and running back-to-back marathon. And because he's just to me that's like an unbalanced approach to life in general.
Do you ever wonder like what's the end goal of that? Like where's that leave him at the end of a certain time in his life? Because I do. Like it would be cool to run a marathon a day for a month, I guess, but what's the end goal of that? Like in 2 months? I don't know. I just say I ran a marathon a day for a month, I guess. Maybe some sort of self-satisfaction or dopamine hit. I'd be curious to know, based on that natural curiosity of like us getting better at things. Um, is that what led you to leave EMS basically at a very high paying, high functioning EMS service to go do something that you've never done? In the middle, like you were pretty probably top five in seniority, made a pile of money, fairly, I mean, super really good at what you were doing, and then one day you're just like, you know what? I wonder if I could fight fires for a living.
Yeah. Uh, I would say like most things in life, like my decision to kind of start over at age 40, was well, one, let's like be real honest. Like you have to look at the financial implications. Uh, My wife and I are very like our kids are very fortunate too. Uh, my wife has a really good job, so that helps out a lot. In making decisions where you can basically take like a 50% pay cut your first year. And now, granted, I've made that money back up, so it's not it doesn't hurt now like it's back then. But yeah, it just I would say it was like a there's multiple reasons why I decided to leave. And we could probably do a whole freaking podcast on that too.
Yeah.
But just a combination of kind of like what we just got done talking about and saying like, can I get any better at this job? And I didn't I didn't feel like clinically, unless you put yourself in situations like your job, it's hard to get any better than you're going to get running 9 calls in the background. Like, like, so I've done the flight service thing.
This is going to be, I'm going to mute for a second, see what happens. Make sure that. We're back. We had to relocate because of apparently it's weed eating day here at the city park, and so we got part 2. Anyway, now we got to compete with the birds chirping, which is a pretty nice thing. We were just talking about you changed.
I think we were talking about why I left my job.
Yeah, you're in the middle of your career basically, and you're like, you just didn't think you could get any better at it, so you were.
I don't want that to come off the wrong way.
I understand.
That's not my intention. I just thought in the situation that I was in.
You've exceeded your. Well, does it go back to the same analogy of swimming? Like you've just exceeded basically what that had to offer, and you're going to get out of it.
I think it exceeded my interest level to a certain extent too, and the amount of time and the amount of change that it would take for me to get better at it. I was ready for it.
Yeah, sure.
There were some things, there was some like stuff going on administratively that I wasn't that crazy about, and the kind of the path forward for the department didn't look like it was a thing that I wanted to be a part of, and I had a good opportunity for another job that was at least enough like my old job that I felt like easily transition into that job without it taking away from like other parts of my life that are real important to me, mainly my family.
But at the same time, you had to learn a new skill, basically, right? Like you had to learn.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there was that aspect of it that
I had the opportunity to try something.
Yeah. And it's and for the most part,
it's paid off.
Yeah.
It's
like
paid off.
I remember you going through the academy and excited to learn new things and meet new people and have a new circle of men and women that you can confide in, and you're in a good place, right?
Yeah, I think so. And it's a really good job, and I mean I don't know how much time you want to spend talking about it, but like it's a good job. I'm lucky to have it. And
do you feel like some of it was and I think the reason I'm trying to steer this to, like, do you think that there's a lot of people in our profession that are like, it's a gamble, right? To leave something that you're fairly comfortable in to where you've invested. Right.
You don't do it.
It's not necessarily smart. But if there's something, I think that there's probably a lot of people in our profession but they do the opposite. They stick around at jobs that they're not necessarily challenged at. They don't necessarily care for the direction of their department or their whatever. And there's aspects of it that but they're not willing to go out and look for other things, right? Like they just kind of get stuck at, here comes a weed eater. We just got rid of a weed eater. The guy drove by with a weed eater.
I think they're following.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be like campfire smoke. We're not gonna get away from it. He went past though, so we'll see where he ends up. But I think that in my situation wasn't any different, right? Like it was a gamble. I gambled on something. I guess in hindsight, you look back and see if it paid off or not. But
I think as long as you're, as long as you keep a reasonable mind about the thing, it doesn't matter what the problem is. But like for me, I knew part of my problem was I didn't like my job. I didn't like where it was going. I didn't like the future. And so you just like have to identify like, okay, so what's the problem? And then what are the solutions to that problem? how each one of those solutions is going to impact other areas of your life that are important to you. And then you just have to, at some point, make a decision, shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
So like either make a move or stay where you are. Like,
but you're not one of those people. I've never really known you to be like impulsive. You're very thorough and you research things and you analyze things. And so there's that personality part of you that probably you probably, this probably came to your mind, and then 6 months later you applied it, right? Because you probably took that time in the middle to, how would this impact my family financially? How would it impact the schedule, the holidays, the benefit package, the retirement? I'm starting over in a new pension. You had to start over in a new pension plan, right? And that's not all things have to take into consideration, instead of you saying, you know what, F this, I'll find something else to do. I'm going to put my 2 weeks in without.
No,
right?
like not. Like I wouldn't. Like the worst situation you can find yourself in is like you've decided on a solution, you've acted on that solution, and now you're on the other side of the equation and you have all these unidentified issues that you just created by the decision that you made 3 weeks or 3 months or 3 days ago or whatever, you know. So yeah, like my tendency is to try and do as much of that, like figure out all the knowns, all the things that you do understand and that you can, you know, essentially like the financial implications. Like talk about that for a long time too, but like I could tell you today what my pension will be if I retire at 56. I can tell you what it would be if I retired at 65. I knew all of that before I even filled out the application or before I put my notice in. So, yeah, I think as long as you keep a reason, you know, I tell my kids all the time, like, if you just make good decisions on small things, like the big stuff will work itself out. So, like, to me, all that information that I saw before I made the decision to leave my job, like, those are small things that, like, if the math doesn't work out on all of them, then I can't leave my job. You know, whether it's taking time, because like my wife said, she's like, why don't you go to PA school? And I was like, one, I don't even know if I could get into PA school. But say I did, then that's like a year of, you know, 70-hour work weeks, basically, in the classroom. And then it's an additional year of just like being gone, essentially, for the entire year. Like maybe I would get to come home on the weekends and stuff like that. But, and I said, that's not fair to my family. Because that's like basically means that like, hey, you're not happy with your job. Why don't you abandon your family for 2 years so that I can be happy?
Yeah.
And that's the same to me, like those two questions, like, hey, can I financially look at taking a different job and what kind of impact that's going to have on my family? But is it fair? You know, can I look my kids in the eye and say like, well, daddy needs a new job, so I'm going to be gone for a couple of years. Like, we still had food in the fridge. Our lights were, you know, like there was no drastic reason other than my own personal satisfaction with my own future. And so I think like all of those things are part of the equation. They all need to be taken into consideration before you would make it.
Just because you solve one problem, it usually generates more problems.
Yeah. And I think that, again, the worst place to be is to be on the other side of the equation, and now you've identified a bunch of problems, and some of that's inevitable. But
look at this guy. Oh yeah, we're right back into the weed eating. We're gonna have to pick back. Yeah, there it is. What the fuck? There's the other guy. All right, we're going back to the original place. All right, bear with us. All right, we're back in the original shelter that we started in. Trying to get away from the weed eater guys, trimmer guy. They're just out doing their job though. Trying to make some beer money. They look like high school kids.
Yep.
with a summer job. And so this is take 3. We're just talking about life choices and how to make them analytically, of course, and less emotionally. I've noticed that like you've kind of done that with everything you've done, right? Like remember when you got into hunting? Like you researched it, you did it, you kind of like you were doing this and you were doing that, and then basically you applied it. You just didn't say, well, I'm gonna go buy a gun and figure this out.
I kind of did. Like at the beginning, I just like borrowed a random muzzleloader, and Sam Arnold of all people actually took me deer hunting, and so that was kind of. I don't think I ended up. No, I did end up shooting a deer. I think I can't even tell you when the first deer was that I killed. It might have been on like one of those late season January antlerless tags in southern Iowa.
It wasn't the buck we hung for my kid's playset.
That was the first deer I ever killed. Yeah,
I thought it was.
yeah, that was the first deer.
Yeah, I remember that hunt. It was great. But it was a natural curiosity.
Yeah, just
Yeah, but we were all like, and I don't claim to be some knowledgeable person when it comes to hunting. We've certainly gotten lucky over the last decade or so, but we all look back at our infancy at things and like we were not good at things, right? But it was that the point of that is that there was a natural curiosity to understand it and to apply knowledge in a real situation that had an outcome, right?
Mhm.
And I think that there's a lot of people that just sit around and don't move on that natural curiosity where like I'm pretty blessed in life to have a small circle of people that are real into that and say, you know what if I do this and how that will turn out and explore those things and apply that stuff. And then, sometimes it might work out and sometimes it won't. Um, we're going to do this in volumes. I don't think that, like we're going to unpack all of it. What I've come to, I think, realize in the 16 years that you and I have been friends, uh, is how impactful it's been. Your family started when I was in the middle of mine. So I had 2 kids when we met, and then I had a couple more while you had your 3. And it's just interesting how you and I have kind of grown together as dads, people that work in the job. Obviously, we're first responders, but we're husbands and dads. When you met your wife, not knowing that she was going to be your wife, and then that evolved obviously into a wedding in Sioux City, and then that evolved into obviously popping out 3 kids, and how we've kind of grown together in that. And oh fuck, yeah,
I think we've like both had stumbling blocks along the way, and like times where things were better, and times when things were not good. And I think like that's just part of life.
it is.
Like it's just part of life. Like if you walk around and expect every day to be the best day, uh, I think you'll be disappointed.
And I think that's with any.
It's an unreasonable expectation.
It is, and it's an unreasonable expectation in any job. In any aspect of life, we this kind of finished up our conversation on our little burden carry thing. It was, um, however, there's things in our profession that make it harder than I think other people. Like relationships are hard, marriage is hard, raising kids is hard. Period. I had a friend of mine who's a physician. I checked in on him one day. I said, "Hey, man, how's it going?" He's like, don't ever get divorced, man. It's blended families are hard." And I was like, "Listen, man, blended families are hard." And I said, "Listen, man, it's all hard. Like blended families, married families, like 1 kid, 2 kid, 4 kids, who gives a shit? Like it's all hard, right? But there's things in our job that make it harder that other people may or may not experience. And I think that the whole point of me doing this project with the podcast, which by the way is not a forever thing, right? Like I don't really I don't really see this. This is going to be a chapter probably in some shit that I've tried in the past, just like archery and whatever it is. Like, I don't see this, long term to me as, a year, maybe 2 years, but I don't see me and really Joe Rogan talking about my, start in the podcast world. However, there's some obstacles that you and I that some variables in our relationships with our wives and our families and our friends that other people don't have to navigate, right? And sometimes I think our jobs get a bad rap for we have an increased divorce rate in public safety. Well, okay, but the divorce rate is high anyway, right? So early in our lives, early in our careers, the things that we went through, I think could be pinned down, and at least my side was to like unspoken expectations, which is that every day is supposed to be roses. And if it's not, there's clearly something, right? When in fact, I don't know that you can have a relationship with somebody over a 50-year span and not have some sort of like, yes, right?
Resolution, conflict, and it is about like actual conflict.
Yes, because the conflict will happen. It's a matter of whether or not you resolve that conflict in a healthy way or not. Because if you don't, then the next conflict is exponentially worse than the first conflict, right? And you and I didn't have to go through marriage counseling to figure that out. And I'm not saying I'm not dogging on it. Yes. I'm not dogging on marriage counseling. I'm dogging on the fact that, if you're a truly like reflective person and you look back on and you're trying to improve as you get older, like you got to look back and say, God damn, like I was an idiot when I first got married. Like I didn't know what I didn't know.
With having a 50 year.
Yeah.
Like you can write things off to, making good decisions and, daily. Like you make good decisions every day, and you could make one bad decision, marry the wrong person, and
then have a kid with them,
and then have a kid with them, and then, like I said, it's kind of like being on the wrong, the back end of an equation. Now you've identified all the problems, where like part of that like daily good decision making, like being very number one, being like mature enough to like look at somebody and be like, do you think I can spend the rest of my life with this other human? Like live together, have children together, which is like to me seems very normal, but I don't know that it necessarily is.
You really don't know what here's you back to your swimming analogy. Can you swim a mile? Well, I don't know because right, because a mile, like I don't really know what's like how long. Like I know how long it takes me to run a mile, but I don't know what right. But I don't know I don't know how long. So is it realistic for me to say, can I swim a mile? Well, I don't really know how long a mile swim is.
You're asking yourself, there's a lot of unknown.
So I can try it, but what happens if I cramp up in the middle and drown? Because a mile is a lot longer on a swim than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Right. And, or you can put a buoy under your hips and some flippers on and see if you can make it. Yeah. In a controlled environment
where you only have to swim 50 meters at a time. And that's a good way to measure it. But like with a thing like marriage, you can't do that. Like you can't try somebody on. I guess that's what dating is, but you can try them on for however long you want. But at some point you're going to have to decide like, okay, is this the person that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with? And sink or swim.
Sink or swim. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
And then we add in the sleep deprivation, the missing the holidays and the birthdays and the things, and like, is that a reasonable expectation for a half of a married couple to be gone a third of the time? And I guess if there's a spoken, yeah, we understand your job, like it is what it is, but the cumulative effects of that over time and how that takes a toll on, does eventually somebody just get tired of your shit of being gone all the time and get tired of you being tired all the time and tired of you using that as an excuse to
be a jerk,
or And for you to say, hey, listen, honey, this is what you married, baby. So get used to it or get going. Like, could you imagine?
Yeah. But there's like, like when we were talking about therapy, there's a lot of people that don't realize that that's where they are, that they identify themselves as like, this is how I react in certain situations. Um, and they're unwilling to like look at that as like a weakness to say, hey, I realize like one of the things that I'm pretty bad at is I blow up, and I'm not really sure why, but like as long as like just to that point right there where you have identified that you have weaknesses, because we all do,
Sure.
and can you get better at them, and how much time are you going to spend getting better at it, and at what point are you going to hit that threshold that says like, okay, if I'm going to get any better at this thing, is it worth investing the time? And I think, if that's how you look at things, like your life's just going to be, like your marriage is going to be easier. Uh, I'm not here to give marriage advice. That's for
I
damn
am
sure.
not.
But
I can tell you how not to do it. Like I can tell you some things that
yeah, but how many things in your life you don't know how to do them, but you know how not to do them. And so as long as you know how not to do a thing, that's that's where like most of my parenting skills derive from. Like I know a way to do it, and I know that way was not enjoyable to undergo like as a child.
Yes.
And so I'm gonna look for some other option.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment too, especially when it comes to parenting kids. Is there's some old saying out there that says it doesn't matter what kind of dad you had, you'll know what kind of dad to be, right? So if you had a turbulent childhood, you'll know what not to do, and if you had a really good childhood and a really good dad and a really good involved parent, then you'll know what to do. And that makes a lot of sense. I don't know.
But that requires like I think like there are many people out there who are not going to reach that conclusion on their own.
Yeah.
Like they're not. It's going to take somebody or something working with that person to even get a lot of people to that point to say like, oh boy, I'm doing the same shit that my parents did to me. Like, and I know how that felt as a child and like what that was like to experience all those things as a child. Like maybe there's a different way. Well, like in fact, there are many different ways, but you got to figure out that for yourself, but just to get to that point where you're like, oh, I'm not doing this so good.
Otherwise, we're living in perpetuity.
Yeah.
It's basically the same cycle over and over and over again, right?
Yeah. So, and there are plenty of people out there that are doing with their kids, but there's also a lot of people that aren't. And some of it is self-awareness. Some of it, some people have gotten there through coaching.
Yeah. And I think that just because you resolve yourself to coaching doesn't mean that there's a weakness or a failure or something like that. Like you just need tools. And
yeah, you might not.
Sometimes you got to hear it from somebody else.
Yeah, and people are so busy with life in general that like even just being able to identify like, oh, that you mean like that's actually a problem, like me working a job where I don't get any sleep and then I come home and my family also expects like it's daytime, it's time to do stuff.
Yeah.
Like we have responsibilities, and it's hard to not feel that obligation yourself.
Especially if you expect silently that the house should be quiet when you get home during the day, in the summer when all your kids are home, and then it's not a realistic
No, not gonna happen.
No. But if you come home and you're like, God damn, I'm tired, I'm going to bed. You guys need to all zip it for 6 hours and basically sit still and not move. Like that's unrealistic.
No.
Now, I'm not saying we haven't tried that in our day, but we probably quickly learned that maybe that wasn't the way to go. So we just figured out other concessions, right? Like maybe our wives took our kids somewhere for a couple hours and we got at least a couple hours of sleep, and then that's better than no sleep. Or maybe we just learned over time to just suck it up.
I think,
which I've done a lot of lately.
That's what most people do. Like, I don't think there's a better option other than suck it up.
Yeah.
Like, if this is the line of work you're going to be in, like, I think that's eventually what it comes down to is like, either you can or you can't, number one, deal with the sleep deprivation. Uh, Not everybody has sleep deprivation either. Some people, they sleep all night, 90% of their nights, others don't.
You're
And
talking about people not in our job, like 8 to 5 jobs. Yeah, right.
well, and I mean, there's plenty of people that work 24-hour shifts, Jason, that like for them to get up in the middle of the night, like it's a big deal. And like the next morning when they come stumbling out of their bunks, like they're just dragging ass. Like, you guys got up once last night. One time. You were interrupted for like 30 minutes, your whole night.
I can't imagine.
And that's not been my experience really ever in EMS, except maybe one job I slept most nights, but it was a long time ago and it wasn't for very long. So yeah, like, can you deal with it? Like, unfortunately, like, there's no good way to deal with it. Like, you just have to.
You think some people
You have
just
to try
deal
to
with it
suck it
better
up.
longer than others?
Yeah. Yeah, just like everything else, like some people can do it for 20, 30 years and some people can't. And, the compensation for the job usually has something to do with it. But a lot of people, you know, they don't come into the end of their career and slide across home base and hop back up, brush the dirt off their pants and skip to their pickups and leave. You know, like, they're beat up.
There's a trade-off.
There is a trade-off. So you just have to, again, do the math ahead of time and realize, like, when I'm 55, it's going to be more like 65 or 70 physically. The impact on your body, um, just working long hours, not getting a lot of sleep, probably eating terrible food, and hormonally being a disaster. Like, that's going to make you get old fast, period. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, whether you're a freak athlete, and genetically gifted with everything in the world, like, you're still going to look way worse after doing this job for 25, 30 years than you would if you would have worked in an office and had some time to work out and make good choices about your food.
Do you think that's true if we don't take steps to mitigate that now? Like I think you and I, and we're not the gold standard by any means, but we take a pretty good approach to our longevity in this profession, right? Like, eat good, see the sun, go to bed.
You're still not going to be in the same shape when the day you turn 65, because of the choices that you made from the time you were 18, 19, 20 till the time that you're 65. You're not going to look the same if you would have made a different career choice. One that wasn't like physically demanding and, basically torture in terms of your sleep schedule and, associated with like poor sleep is poor hormonal balance and, which makes you get squishy, not hard, right? Like, and then, just like the normal food choices that 90% of the population makes, just the math all the way through, the math makes it look bad, unless you realize ahead of time, hey, this is going to make me get old. And I just look at all the guys that that have retired or guys that should have retired, a couple of years ago.
We don't see a lot of them.
They're broken.
Yeah, I don't.
Physically.
I have always celebrated people that make it to like official retirement because I just don't think in this job it's happens a lot. Like, usually it's out on some sort of disability or some sort of burnout or some sort of something, like maybe even just short of the finish line, a year or two, three. Maybe it's, half a career short of the finish line that they just can't make it. So anybody that is truly drawing a hyper's pension right now, or municipal police and fire pension at the age of 55 or higher for not working, I think should be celebrated. It's a tough job to see to the end.
Yeah, it is. And I think you just but within a few years, you should recognize that, like, you should be able to, like, kind of forecast your own future and say, like, oh, so if I make a career out of this, like, I am gonna have, like, there's consequences, right?
Yeah.
Not not rewards, like legitimate consequences to, making a 30-year career out of working 24-hour shifts and being busy.
Plus you're,
And that's not to say it's all bad, because like there's
oh, no,
there's
no,
a
I'm,
ton
no,
of, there's a
I'm,
ton of benefits to working for, being in public safety, whether you're police, fire, EMS, or something. Like, there are a long list of like huge benefits.
hands down.
Obviously, it's how I've chosen to make a living for my family.
But do you think in your education to get to this point, like those trade-offs and those consequences were part of the education? Like,
I mean, you can like, yeah, you could what if that, like whose responsibility is to provide this information to people, and to a certain extent, like,
and not to scare people out of the job, but just to be like, hey, listen, kids or people.
what would you have done? Somebody had come to you like
So-
your first day at Dallas County and being like, listen, kid. And you would have been like, what? Your response would have been like, oh, it would have been somebody terrible, somebody who hasn't really trained in this, like it would have been some, piece of like corporate training that everybody got. And that's how I would have viewed it. Like, that's how I would have looked at it at the time. Like, I don't think you can explain those consequences to somebody who's in their early 20s and have it really like hit home. It seems wishful thinking.
do you think we can conceptualize it though and say, hey, listen, like this isn't hard, fast data, but these are some things to think about as you go through you're not going to think about it now because you're 26, 27, 28 years old and you've got 2 jobs or 3 jobs with a kid on the way and you just got married and you're looking to, the end where you can draw that IPERS pension. But hey, in the meantime, here's some pitfalls that maybe we've come across in our career that you can look out for and just try to understand the general concept of this job comes with some trade-offs. This job comes with some consequences. And some of them are unintentioned consequences maybe, and some of them are things that you can mitigate, uh, like your sleep schedule or in your nutrition, in your fitness, and your mental well-being. Like are things out there to aid you in getting to the end. Because and I'm not saying I was surprised by any of this, like through my career, which I'm kind of on the tail end of, I'm over the hump, right?
Mm-hmm.
But things I had to pick up along the way that I went, shit, I didn't see that coming, right? Like,
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, I think you can, have the debate about like, well, whose responsibility is it? The educational institutions? Is it the employers? Is it like employee
your
groups?
peers.
Is it like, whose responsibility is that?
Yeah,
And each group is going to have their own opinion about whose responsibility that is. And I don't see that changing. Like, you take somebody who's brand new at a job, they're probably like semi scared shitless, or they're too ignorant to know that they should be, and they have 1,000 other things that they need to think about. And there's some old guy over here telling him like, hey man, this job can be bad for you. You're like, that's not a thing I need to worry about today. Like, today I need to worry about not doing something stupid, not making a bad decision on a call or whatever it is. But yeah, I don't, it's a, it would be like a good thing to figure out. I don't know how like optimistic I am that's actually going to get figured out.
Do you think other professions have that? You think it's just a part of like how we evolve in adulthood? Do you think other professions have the same, pitfalls or some of the same pitfalls, or you just don't really know how to navigate anything until you like somebody working at Wells Fargo who just started out, you're like, do you think that there's trade-offs in that job too, that they're like, I got to figure this out?
I think there is. The trade-off is you're going to sit at the desk for 8 to 7 to 12 hours a day, depending on like what your work schedule is and what your position is. And sitting at a desk all day is also not good for you. And, eating junk food is universally bad for you. And most people, it's like a, somewhat given. I can eat whatever I want to eat. But yeah, I think there are trade-offs, but they're just trade-offs. Like I think some of them you can identify beforehand, and some of them you can't. And you just hopefully you do a good job of, at least looking into the future a little bit, trying to make decisions about your career. And
I think you ultimately probably get to the point. Some people probably get to the point where they're like, "This, I don't know, I can't sustain this." I'm 32 years old.
for all sorts of different reasons.
It's for all sorts of different reasons.
Like we were talking about on our walk, or I should, what was it, Gary?
Burden. I don't know why. I don't know why you think that that's yeah. It's CrossFit, bro.
Well, like we were talking about on the walk,
Now, saying like talking about it on the walk, see, seems like we just
I lost.
no offense to anybody who likes to walk. Like I've come to find out that a walk a day is very therapeutic for a lot of different reasons. But when you say that we went on a walk, that sounds less intense than
less cool.
a burden carry.
Burden carry.
Go ahead.
I don't even remember what were we talking about.
I don't know. Learning at 32 that you can't sustain this pace.
Oh yeah. So we were talking about like therapy and like the use of a therapist and that kind of stuff. And I think and I can't say like that this is not exact science. Actually, I can't say that. But like I think if you interviewed 1,000 EMS providers and you said like, hey, list your 50 worst calls that you've had, and I think you could give them a time. Say you get like 3 minutes to list 20 terrible calls that you've had. I think the people who have a really long list are not going to be able to sustain themselves like in a high volume, busy, clinically challenging environment. I just don't think they will. But I think the ones that say like, I don't know, and you have to like really struggle to remember like the bad calls that you've had, I think that like that personality trait lends itself to being more durable in this situation, and I don't know what that is, but like I would be on the list of people that would struggle to remember those things.
I'm on the same list, man. We were talking. I like it. If you were to tell me, hey man, you remember the time that you and I went and did this, I'd be like, man, could you tell me more? Might trigger it, but if I had to come up on my own with graphic details of like, I could maybe do it with 3 or 4 calls, 5 maybe, if you gave me some time. And I don't mean that as some sort of like I'm some sort of hardened creature. I think
it's a personality trait that's hard to learn. It'd be one of those things like if you identified that as one of your weaknesses to say like, how can I get better at this? I don't know the answer to that question. So like maybe that would be a good, like a good thing for me to identify as a weakness to say, well, I don't know how to not remember all this terrible shit that I see. Maybe a therapist could help.
But
I don't know.
But is it a problem though? Like just the fact that we can't recall these things, I don't know that's a problem. Like it's a defense mechanism.
If I were the opposite.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I remember all the terrible things that I'd seen. And I remember some of them. But man, I would struggle to have to like physically list out like my 10 worst calls. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can remember like maybe 2, 3, but beyond that, like, and I know I've had more, but I just don't remember them.
I used to think that was some sort of deficiency. It's like, why can't I remember these? Like, do I have some sort of problem? But no, it's a defense mechanism. Like it's a.
Is it, or is it? Because I
like
forget stuff all the time. Like my wife and I fight, and then like 2 weeks later, I'll be like, shit, I don't even know what we were fighting. I don't know that that's a defense mechanism. Like I would say, like my wife's like, hey,
in the context of, but in the context of compartmentalizing something, which is probably a term that maybe we throw around with unknowing definition of it, and just forgetting to shut the stove burner off, which I'm guilty of.
Yeah,
we joke at my house that it's my CTE. But is it not? Like, I don't know that it's not. And it's certainly not a defense mechanism. Like, I didn't put that back on the back shelf of memory because I don't know how to deal with it right now. Right. And at some point in 20 years, the fact that I didn't shut the burner off is going to now rear its ugly head and cause some sort of mental breakdown. Right? So the fact that we don't remember these things, like, are we fooling ourselves into thinking that we're better at something than we are? Or are we deficient?
Well, I think in terms of like durability for doing this job, it's a good thing, but it's probably worth like monitoring,
Sure.
and it depends on how like, are you internalizing all of this stuff or are you dwelling on it? Like there's a difference between, committing something to like long-term memory and short-term memory. Like my short-term memory is like not that great. Like I lost my phone an hour ago, or whatever it was.
Yeah, I remember I watched.
Yeah. And then I forgot to tell you that I found it for like 10 minutes. I didn't realize you were over here still.
I do shit like that anyway. Like, I looked for something the other day and it was right there, but I checked every box that it could have been. But is that just part of, I hate to say aging, or is it some sort of?
I've been forgetful. Terrible themes. Like if I didn't have to find my phone function on my watch, like I probably wouldn't have a phone right now. So I don't think
I had to call.
there's some forgetfulness that comes with age, obviously.
Yeah, clearly that's clinically proven. Probably. Yeah. I had to call my 13-year-old daughter on my way here to say, "Hey, man, did I shut the burner off on the stove?" Because I don't remember doing it. And she's like, "Yeah, you did." I was like, "Thanks." But there's times when I'll call her and she'll be like, "Yeah, you left it on," or my wife will text me, "You left the burner on." I'm terrible. Am I in a hurry trying to get out of the house? Am I forgetful? Am I just don't think of it? I don't know, man. So listen, we're gonna do this in volumes, and I think that today was a pretty good like introduction to you and how we think and how we go along and the influence we've had on each other. There's clearly more to you that most people know about that we're probably going to talk about sometime.
Yeah.
Right. Today probably ain't going to be that day just because it was, I wanted to keep it fun and light and in a, I don't know, there's an undertone to, right. And you know it and I know it. We say the quiet, we're getting to the point where we're saying the quiet part out loud. Right. But I don't know that today's that day. There's a lot I want to talk to you about it.
Yeah. And
there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
About that. Most notably, I really want to know, like, I already know the answer, but I want you to talk about like what you're doing on your own, right? Versus what the medical community is telling you to do or what. That's always interesting to me. And it goes back to your analytical nature where you've always been kind of one of those guys that does more research and more education and more reading and how you've applied that too. And I think that would be a great episode for people to listen to. And then there's always the, how are you doing mentally? That kind of stuff, man. But I don't know that today's that day.
There will be other days.
Yeah.
We'll do this again. This was fun.
Yeah, I just wanted to keep it's been a long time. This probably hasn't been a long time. We worked out together probably. It's probably been longer than we think. Probably a few months ago, and that was a good time. And getting together and doing this kind of shit was fun. Kind of just wanted to keep it that way. Eventually, we all know what we're going to get to talking about, but I don't know. Is there anything else? We're going to go. I'm going to go probably mow my yard again. And
are you going to like review any of your old YouTube videos?
No, I got shit to do. I'm not at my job, for Christ's sakes. I got shit to do. I got a home softball game tonight, man. I got shit to do. Ain't nothing time for that. I'll do that when I'm at my job this weekend. It's gonna be perfect. Like, regardless of the outcome, which I hope is in our favor, like the humidity broke. It's not The sun hopefully will be behind some clouds. Like it'll be just a really, really good night to sit outside and watch some really good softball. So we're gonna do that.
Cool.
All right, do it again. Yeah, thanks for coming. All right, everybody, work hard, be kind. Okay.
Hey guys, thanks again for listening to another episode of the Shift Change Podcast. I need to ask if you would leave a rating. I think that it helps people who are new to the podcast find it quicker. It doesn't do me any good, but it does help other people that are looking for the Shift Change Podcast on Spotify or Apple. It just comes up quicker the more ratings that you give it. Whether you give it a 2 or a 5, it doesn't make a difference. It just helps other people. If you need to get a hold of me, contact me via my email, the show email, which is talkshiftchange@gmail.com. Or you can message me on Instagram at talk.shiftchange. At talk.shiftchange on Instagram. As always, thanks for listening. I could not have imagined how well this podcast has been received. So, as always, I appreciate it. Work hard, be kind.